And I'm trying something different this time because I have been wanting to relay a certain set of information for over a year now. I was like, there were so many other things to do, like celebrating our 30th anniversary, that I've just been holding it, holding it, holding it. And I finally get to do it. I finally get to do it on September 20th. And it's called Feels Like Love, Looks Like Math. Now, what? And don't get worried if you're like, "Oh no, not math." I do math. I speak math. I'm not fluent in math, but I love math because of the things that it can represent. And I have been paying attention to love for decades now. And if you've ever been to AlisonArmstrong.com, shop products, you'll see things like loving more by sacrificing less, causing those loving feelings. Um, oh my gosh, I love comes up all over the place. And and this is another expression of it that's come together over many, many years of listening to men and listening to women and trying to sort out the kind of mess and mystery of some of the most important things. And this is why we asked on Instagram for your questions about deserving and appreciation, because deserving and appreciation are two of the factors that can add up to feeling like love. So let's start with this deserving business because there's so much mischief here. It's normal for human beings to pay attention to deserving. It's actually a good thing. It can be an honorable thing to pay attention to deserving, but it also can prevent us from receiving so much that's being offered to us in romantic contexts and family and friends, and even just people who want to support you in the workplace or strangers on the street. So as usual, I'm going to start with some definitions, and then I'm going to address part of what Talia asked, what Mia asked, and some things that could be related to deserving that other people asked. So the definition we're going to work with here is for deserving is to have a right to because of acts or qualities. To have a right to because of acts or qualities. Now, doesn't it sound like a good thing? Like, it also means worthy. Worthy, which means equal to. Okay, another way to think of it is I earned it. I earned it because of what I did, or I earned it because of what I am. And this could be an honest assessment. It can be completely legitimate, but I deserve that. The only problem is whoever you're asking for it from has to agree. They have to agree that you have a right to it because of acts or qualities. And one of the things that we poke fun of in our In Sync with the Opposite Sex and with Understanding Love and Commitment, our online program, is that many women seem to have been installed with a timeline and benchmarks that says if I've given you 9 months of my precious reproductive life, you owe me a marriage proposal. I deserve one. And there are men who have come to me and said that well, I proposed to my girlfriend, and in the movies, they're always really excited. And she said, yes, but she wasn't that excited. And I said, how long had you been together when you did this? And he said, 3 years. It's like, I'm sorry, but you're long overdue. And she's been taking a lot of flack from her friends and family about why is she still with you. So deserving has a front of the hand and the back of the hand. And I think it's important that we consciously sort what we really believe that that we're worthy of, that we have a right to that. And but that doesn't mean you can't have it. You could actually sort for, no, I don't think I deserve to be loved. I haven't, maybe I have or have not earned being loved, but I don't want love to be in the category of earned. I want to give love as a gift, and I want to receive love as a gift, not not be expecting it. Right? So you can start to see the mischief, because we think if we work on deserving something, we'll have more of it. But as Talia asked, which was very shorthand, deserving versus demanding. Unfortunately, when we have a sense of deserving, another way of saying it is a sense of entitlement, that you owe me this, then we demand it. And as we talk about in many places in our curriculum, mostly people can only have two possible responses to a demand. One is to resist the demand, and the other is to submit to a demand. I mean, that might be good for a paycheck. I did the work, give me my paycheck, but to bring it into romantic relationships, it makes it transactional. And once we're being transactional, it doesn't have all the possibilities of the upward spiral of a true partnership could have, a true loving relationship. Now, am I saying be trampled over? No. For those of you who know me, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Ultimatums, figure out what you can't live with and you can't live without. But that has to do with your legitimate needs, which we define as something that makes a huge difference when you get it, has a huge cost when you don't. A good example of that is sleep. And another good example of that is appreciation. Appreciation is something that I assert human beings actually need. And what if it was something you weren't willing to live without? Okay, so when I get a little further down and start talking about appreciation, I just want you to know that. I think too many people are on appreciation diets, and they have the people around them on appreciation diets. And so people are starving for appreciation, and it has a tremendous effect on how much we're willing and able to give to each other. And the upward spiral, what I call the stairway to heaven, is about giving and receiving and giving and receiving and giving and receiving and giving and receiving. And it can be gorgeous, but with a lack of appreciation, which will become clear pretty soon, no, it doesn't get gorgeous. Can barely get up off the ground. And that's the problem with transactions. Transactions are all about equaling. And when we try to equal deserving, we call it the deserving equation, which means it adds up to zero. We're never going to get in an upward spiral. But don't let yourself get in the negative either. But you don't have to talk yourself into deserving it. You can be in a different, literally different nervous system. You don't have to be in the survival nervous system. You can step over into human spirit, the parasympathetic nervous system, the one that's associated with the crown chakra, and a deep breath, right? You can switch to the other one. And it's over there, it's what you're here for, what you're here for, what your purpose is, what you stand for. And many of us, we don't have the energy to fulfill our purpose because we're not being fed enough. And I'll say more about that when we get to the appreciation side. So a little more about deserving related. So Mia asked, when things don't work out, I assume it's because I didn't deserve it. is there another way to look at this? Oh my gosh, there's so many other ways to look at it, which are so much more productive than engaging in deserving. Now, if you're being demanding and the other person opts out, that may be a statement that what you're demanding, they don't think you have a right to, or they may think you absolutely have a right to it and they can't give it. And that is one of the ways that I have seen men actually be honorable. Yes, I love her. Yes, she's amazing. And I can't give her what she needs. So it would be dishonorable of me to ask for that commitment, to make that commitment. Now, if you're shocked by this, that's normal. And I've validated this since 1991. Are there bad people? Yes, there are bad men, there are bad women, there are dishonorable men, there are dishonorable women, and most people are not. Most people are honorable. Most people want to do the right thing. And how you know you're one of them is you feel shame when you've done something you think wasn't the right thing to do, and that you harmed or betrayed someone, betrayed even yourself. So when things don't work out, it's usually because people couldn't give each other what they needed, which if that were just the plain truth and all we had to do was express what we need and figure out, can we give it to each other, that would be awesome. But most people don't ever say what they need until they think they deserve it. And they're so angry at not getting it, then they demand it. If we can state it when we're in a state of mind of compassion for the other person and what it might take for them to give it to us, something else entirely is possible. So, Mia, the place I would have you start looking at is really, what do you need to have your life be better off for this person being in it? Instead of you're better off with them out of it, because that's a good indication of someone fulfilling your needs and at least trying to fulfill your needs. And I can't help this. Every one of these things is potentially hours of information that I've gleaned since 1991. So Mia, I would say go to Dating with Distinctions, because that will give you a whole bunch of things to think about so that you have a better chance of it working out. Or if it's not going to work out, it doesn't work out faster because of a higher degree of clarity. And it's so much less painful and more honoring, more respectful of each other. That would be one way to do that. And I would follow it with connecting through conflict, because that's one of the places we can see what was really important to pay attention to and to not let go of. All right, so I've been busting out of deserving ever since it was early on. It was probably about 1994 or so when I found out how much men want to give and how much men want to take care of us. And they have the impulse and the desire to take care of us. And we distinguish what creates that in the Making Sense of Men book. Oh, Tyler, we should put that up. We should put up the promo code where people can get the Making Sense of Men book for free. Then everyone would have some of the most important information on the planet. Let's be sure to do that, okay? I think it's Allison Gift 2025. So you have to go to AlisonArmstrong.com and pick out Making Sense of Men from the shop products, put it in your shopping cart, and then put that promotional code in it, and it'll make it 0, and you'll get the ebook almost instantly. And this distinguishes what causes men to want to give to you and take care of you versus what causes men to be compelled to take from you. Not because they're bad people, just because of the way that we're put together. as human beings. Okay, so there are some other questions that could be related to deserving, but they might be something else. So Ava said, I'm always struggling taking compliments. Any ideas? And Candy asked, why do some men not respond when you compliment them? They downplay it or ignore it. So I looked this up in the dictionary because there was a place where compliments were collapsed with appreciation. And I know I keep saying I'm going to get to more about appreciation, and I will, but the brain learns from the perception of a difference. So this contrast is really good for our minds to get a hold of it. So a compliment is an expression of praise, commendation, or admiration. Now, that sounds great, an expression of praise, commendation, or admiration. But can you see how when someone sincerely has an expression of praise, commendation, or admiration, that what might happen to the person on the other side is, I don't deserve that. I don't deserve that. Men have told me that they have stopped complimenting their wives or girlfriends because all they get is an argument. And when a man gives a compliment, what he's hoping you'll do is take the compliment and use it. Use it to have more confidence. Use it to brighten up your day or your night. Use it to put even more sparkle in your eye and glow in your cheeks. Because they just said, wow, you're beautiful. And you went, I am. Yeah, that you take it and use it. And instead we tell them what's imperfect about ourselves. In this old thing, with this pimple, with this thing that, I fell and bumped my nose and it still isn't healed. How could you possibly think that? So women tend to argue with compliments, oftentimes out loud, and sometimes just to themselves. And they're like, oh, pshaw. They reject the compliment. Notice when you have a sincere expression of praise or admiration, for it to be rejected hurts. It feels personal that someone rejected that. It was a gift we were trying to give them. So deserving, and the idea of whether or not we're worthy of or equal to, right? That compliment, worrying about deserving it can get in the way. Worrying about deserving it is all about, do we agree with that? And it can just end up insulting and hurting the person who offered that praise. And it's honestly a selfish act, which is something we explore in parts of our curriculum about receiving, that mostly people aren't good at receiving because they're paying attention to the wrong person. They're paying attention to how they feel and think about that instead of paying attention to the person who's trying to give us this gift. Now, that's one thing that could be happening in here. The other thing that could be happening here, and this often happens with men, what could be interpreted as downplaying or ignoring it, and it has to do with, if you think of men as warriors, that they're one of their prime drivers is to protect, and they're and everything that contributes to their ability to protect is good, and something that would take away from their ability to protect is not good. And this is what, many of you have heard me talk about this so many times. This is what clamps down. This is what has conceal be the default. Conceal is the default. So they conceal a need, and they conceal when something's important to them, because if you know it's important to them and you're an enemy, you could use it against them. So you're gonna have to watch carefully, okay? if a woman is actually going to receive a compliment or admiration, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And let me tell you all about how I did that. A man, if what you admired him for actually struck home, is actually something that he needs to be admired for, that he's glad that you admire him for, he might do something like this. Watch carefully. Thank you. Tyler's smiling. Yeah, the conceal clicks in so fast to not show how important that was. And there might be a little lift and back of the shoulders, and there might be a nod. There might be, if you look very closely, they might pop some liquid in their eyes and look away, maybe so you don't see what happened to their pupils because you struck home. It's going to be downplayed. And it's part of how they're put together, and it's okay. We just need to look for it instead of it only counts if they react the way a woman would. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much for noticing that. No, they're not gonna. And if you watch closely, you can see it. You can see it from across the room if you're watching close enough. And I think it's a beautiful thing about them, especially because of how safe I feel in the world because of how protective men are. So I want to support that in them. All right. That's what I want to say about deserving for now. And in this thing about we can't, if we can't receive something we think we don't deserve, one of the ways that you might want to go about it, I teach it in causing those loving feelings, which I finally figured out a long time after publishing it that people may interpret that causing those loving feelings is how do you cause other people to love you? How do you make them love you? No, it's about how do you cause yourself to feel love? How do you cause yourself to feel love? If you want to love somebody, how do you cause them to feel love for someone? If you used to love them and you don't anymore, how do you get that back? It's especially important between like parents and their children. Losing a feeling of love for your children. Oh my gosh, talk about heartbreaking. So, and that's part of how I discovered this. And it can be applied, causing those loving feelings, which Tyler, if you would put up the link to that in the chat for the people here, and I know you'll put on Instagram, the causing those loving feelings can be applied to oneself, that you can cause yourself to love yourself more. And this is important because I assert that we won't let someone else love ourselves more than we love ourselves. And we'll only love ourselves to the degree that we admire ourselves and respect ourselves and actually like who we are. And we can cause that by changing our behavior. Stop doing the things that cause you to lose admiration and respect and affinity for yourself. I took this on when I was assigned the task of letting go of everything that isn't love, especially for myself. No, not that. That would be the hardest thing. It turned out to be really simple. I just got to cut out the things that I kept being ashamed of having done or having failed to do. Much simpler than I would have thought. Okay, so that's about that part. Now let's talk about appreciation. So appreciation, the definition we're going to work with, and there are tons of definitions about appreciation, and they apply it to real estate and all different contexts, but it literally means to increase the value of. So when something appreciates, when something is appreciated, it increases the value of something. Now, I'm going to tell you something else about appreciation. Appreciation, true appreciation is a feeling. So this speaks to Olivia's question. How do I show appreciation consistently without coming off as fake? Don't be fake. Don't ever say words of appreciation that you don't feel. And this is especially important with men because men are way more sensitive than women think they are, and even more sensitive than they think they are. And one of the things they're sensitive to is, does the feeling you're having match the words you're saying? And they actually can tell. So appreciation is actually the feeling of gratitude. It's the feeling of thank you. And it has an element, and we teach this in our partnership work. It has this element of you're taking something personally. So acknowledgement would be, wow, you took out the trash. That's just a fact. And acknowledgement is important. Thank you for doing that for me. And that's where the feeling comes in, the feeling of appreciation. Now, men have told us if, for example, you touch them, depending on the context, you touch their hand, you might touch their shoulder, that has this extra oomph in the communication. Thank you. You could reach out and shake their hand. Thank you. With a feeling of appreciation. Sorry, I just remember doing that to Clint Eastwood. Flashback. Okay. But I really wanted to thank him for Invictus. What an amazing movie. Okay. So funny, the things that just pop up. So how do you do it consistently without coming off as fake? Only ever do it when you mean it. And even if you're speechless and you have the feeling of it and it's in your eyes, it's in your touch, they'll get it. They'll get it. Now, Naveed asks, what's the best way to help her feel truly appreciated? And this is awesome. Ryan asked, how can I appreciate myself more? So I would go back, Ryan, to the causing those loving feelings. And I would give you Jose Stevens, Dr. Jose Stevens' definition of pride, which is an appropriate appreciation. It's tied in, an appropriate appreciation of one's own qualities and accomplishments. So you may have to take stock of your qualities and your accomplishments in order to appreciate that about yourself. And I just would caution you, caution everyone, watch that as you take stock of your qualities and accomplishments, that you're just taking stock of them as themselves. Wow, I did that. Instead of as compared to what you think you should have done. I figured this out when I was writing a resume, and it was about fundraising, and there was how much I wanted to raise, and there was how much I actually raised. And so for myself, I was a failure. And then I realized, no, they'll hire me if how much I raised is how much they want someone to raise. They don't care what I was going for. They care for what I did. So you have to have some kindness to yourself, cut yourself some slack. Most of us have impossible expectations of ourselves, whether it's an idealized woman or the better man who would have done everything better. To have an appropriate appreciation, which is, it's very close to respect for your own qualities and accomplishments. You may have to do that. Okay, now back to what's the best way to help her feel truly appreciated. This is something that we're going to be looking at, and we're going to be tying this all together when on September 20th, it's going to be on, we're going to have a lunch break, but it's from 9 to 3 Pacific time, and including the lunch break. And I am going to be weaving together how deserving and our concerns for deserving and equalizing that transaction, and appreciation and the feeling of appreciation and the assessment of the value of something, how that weaves in with something that I call the worth it calculation. Now, there are places on the internet and even on our own website where I call it the worth it equation, but I want to dispel that. If the worth it calculation turns out to equal, it's not worth it. And I'm actually going to share my screen and show you the worth it calculation in a moment, because it's an extension of what we're talking about, and especially this question, what's the best way to help her feel truly appreciated? So Naveed, each of us, male, female, young people, old people, we all have currencies of appreciation. So the definition of currency is something that is used as a medium of exchange. The importance of this is, if you think of currencies, like take national currencies, and there's an exchange rate, right? And you can find out, if you want to look for the United States, for example, exchange rate, what is $1 exchange for now? And that would be the translation into another currency. Well, I once kept trying to put a Canadian loonie into a US car wash machine. And it didn't matter how close to the same size it was. It didn't matter how close it was to the same shape. That machine rejected it again and again and again. It wasn't US currency. It was Canadian currency. And this happens in the domain of appreciation, that we all have currencies of appreciation and things that are worth more to us than others. And oh boy, and we'll talk about this on September 20th. The terrible news is that many of us express ourselves in currencies of appreciation that not only are they worth less to other people than to us, they might actually be a negative. So if you express appreciation with a spontaneous hug, I try to ask, can I hug you? Have some respect, ask, can I hug you? But that is normal for me. A spontaneous hug would be an expression of appreciation. I know people that their relationship to being touched, that's not appreciation, and it doesn't feel like appreciation to them. It feels like a violation, or it feels like disrespect. How many times have I told you not to do that? So one of the things that's really important is to find out. So Naveed, what's the best way to help her feel truly appreciated? She has the answer. Honey, I've been trying to show you how much I appreciate you by saying this, by doing that, by not taking you to task for something, like for just letting things go. So much of the time, appreciation is forgiveness. Forgiveness is a currency of appreciation. Just for letting people off the hook, just forgiving things. Don't be up in their face about everything that they didn't do perfect. That's a form of appreciation, for some people more than others. So I would start, Naveed, and everybody else by saying, I've been trying to show appreciation to you by doing this and not doing that, and saying this and not saying that. And I'm not sure that it's actually the form of appreciation that would matter to you the most. And maybe there's more than one way to show appreciation to you that would mean a lot more than what I'm doing. And I would like to know, so that if I can do it, I will do it. Now, I put that sentence in there on purpose, because part of the currencies of appreciation is if someone knows that it's really hard for you to show appreciation that way, but you're doing it anyway because of how much you want me to feel appreciated, then that means even more, right, than someone for whom it's easy. Can you see how it works? That's the nature of appreciation. So it's something to ask about, it's something to tell, it's something to look for yourself. And I'm gonna actually show you this worth it calculation, so that it's in the world. It'll be on YouTube. Everybody will have it, whether you come to the event or not. Feels like love, looks like math. And this is critically important because for so much, oh my gosh, Tyler, I've never said this way before. For so many of us, what people do has us feel appreciated. Things that people do, things that people provide for us can be very powerful currencies of appreciation. But, and this is especially true for men, and as we women get older and have less compulsion to care and tend because of what's happening in our brain, it's going to become more and more important to us that fewer things become worth doing. They have to satisfy the worth it calculation the way that most men need something to satisfy the worth it calculation. So it's all circular, right? So much of how we feel appreciated is by what people do for us, but how much we appreciate it is what makes it worth them doing it. This makes it really tricky. Okay, so I'm going to share this with you. Let me, I want to get this set up so you can see it. Oh, good. I'm going to make my screen a little wider. Maybe that'll help. There we go. Now this picture should look right. And just want to encourage you, just don't worry. And you can take a picture of this on your screen. And in Feels Like Love, Looks Like Math, we'll spend more time on the intricacies of this and answer lots of questions about it. But I want to show this to you so you have it and you can play with it. And I encourage you to apply it to yourself. Apply it to yourself first in terms of what has something be worth doing for you. Okay. All right, here we go.
Allison's not showing.
I haven't showed it yet.
Oh, pardon me.
It's okay. It's always good to tell me. All right, you guys seen it? I love how many of you showed up tonight. Thank you. Good, your beautiful faces. Oh my goodness. Can you see it? Yes, you seen it? Okay, so this is the worth it a calculation. I named it incorrectly, calling it an equation. We are compelled to equalize appreciation. We really are. And that's part of its magic. And you can actually predict behavior from appreciation. And we're compelled to equal deserving, that we give as good as we got. And we can have problems when we get better than we think we gave. We like can't accept it. No, I can't accept that. So deserving equation, appreciation equation, those are equations. And because I assert we're compelled to equalize deserving and appreciation. Something being worth it, if you know this term ROI, return on investment, zero, equalizing. You get as good as you put in. You put the money in the bank and they give it back to you in the same amount when it was supposed to be a savings account. That's not going to satisfy the worth it calculation. All right, so I'm going to assume you've been looking at this. So up here, we're going to start with the value of the result. So what is the value of the result? What is the value of the result equal? Is this a result that's a 10? Do you know that what you're doing for somebody makes a huge difference in their lives, gives them something very important? I spent 3 weeks with my daughter after my grandson was born, and my purpose was for her to not do anything I could do so that she could do what only she could do, nurse my grandson and heal herself. That all our energy would be spent on that. And I dedicated myself. I cleared my life to be able to do that. And one of the things that made it so worth it was that she did. She did. She took advantage of my gift. She did take care of herself. She did give me things that I could do instead of her so she could take even better care of herself. And she was about maybe 10 days into this when she wanted every new mother to have it. And her wanting every new mother to have it and how she expressed that, that was a currency of appreciation for me, right? And that's why this is important, because appreciation increases the value of the result. So there might be the empirical value of a result. The trash was taken out. Okay, it doesn't stink in the house anymore. All right, that's a good value. I get to be her hero. She takes it personally and I did it for her, and she takes it personally. I did it for her. She appreciates it. She smiled at me with that smile. She gave me a hug. She said, "Thank you," as she squeezed my arm. Well, I'll be doing that again. That's how appreciation contributes to this. It contributes to the value of the result. The appreciation plus the just empirical value of that. Okay, we have gas in the car. And she appreciated me putting gas in the car. That I saved her from her having to have smelly hands. That's why Greg, for decades, figured out how far I had to go and made sure I had gas in my car because of how much I loved it, how much it provided for me, and then how much I appreciated him for it. Okay, so this is what happens with this equation. So what's subtracted from the value of the result is the value of the amount of time, energy, and resources the result may require, the result will require, could require. And this is subjective to the provider. The provider is figuring this out. How much time and money and energy is this going to take? How many favors will I have to call in? How much will I have to borrow? Right? That's all going to factor. How much help am I going to get? This is not a two-man job. That's all getting factored into. That's a minus. And then there's the value of what will not happen due to the reallocated time, energy, and resources. What will they be sacrificing? Well, I'll use up my chit with him. Oh, I won't be able to call on him to help me for that. Well, I won't have the money for that. Well, there goes playing basketball, being in a basketball tournament that weekend because she needs it that weekend. What will be sacrificed? That's part of the calculation. What's not being done? What that money isn't available for, what that time and energy isn't available. Oh, then I'll be too tired for that. So that's considered part of the cost. And then it's going to get adjusted. So this is what will be estimated. You could say let's put this. I'm going to put estimated in here because initially it's estimated. And someone may say no, just based on estimation. It happens a lot. Sometimes you have to ask. Greg said no to something. And then I said, how much do you think that's going to cost? And it was like 10 times what I found in the paper this was back in newspaper time. But look, it's on sale at Home Depot for this amount. I had that garbage disposal in my house installed within a couple of hours, just because it became worth it when it wasn't going to cost as much as he thought it was going to cost. Pretty funny. Okay, I know I messed this up now. Time, energy, and resources is all cattywampus. Oops. Good thing this stuff is adjustable. There we go. But then what's going to be a plus and minus? So it'd be estimated. Then there's when it actually turns out and what has to be accounted for if this is going to end up having been worth doing, which if it's really worth doing, it's really worth doing again. So anything you want to happen again and again has to be really worth doing. So there's the estimate, and then there's the plus or minus, the actual amount of time, energy, resources, and sacrifice. It's going to get adjusted. If they underestimated, that's the price is going to go up. If it was overestimated, then yay, the price went down. And that can affect this right here. If it's a plus, 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 we came out way ahead. Oh, that was so worth doing. And you can tell that something's worth doing. Tyler, are we in foot? We're not in football season yet, are we?
Almost, just about there, yeah.
Almost. It's really obvious on a football field. Worth doing gets a yes. Not worth doing. Just, oh no. There's just so much regret that, oh, what a waste that was. And wasting is counterinstinctual. You waste too much, you die. So plus, 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 worth doing, really worth doing. Plus, like you come out a little bit ahead? No, probably not worth doing. A little ahead is not enough ahead. You only come out a little ahead on the summer, how much food you brought in and how much you ate. In the winter, you're going to starve to death. Instinctually, a little bit ahead is not worth doing. Okay, we got 3 yards on that play. Okay, back at it, guys. Unless they were hoping for 2 and they got 3, then they're like, yes, that 3, that's an important 3 in this strategy. Because if we get here, we know we can kick a field goal. Yes, that was worth doing. I study men all the time in every context that I can find them. I've even learned to be able to follow a hockey puck. It's very exciting. So a little bit plus is not worth doing. And a minus or a 0 is so not worth doing. It's not worth doing. It's I'm never gonna do that again. And that again could be the not worth doing is assigned to that person, made it too hard. I'm not going to do anything with that person again. I'm not going to do anything under that circumstance. I'm not going to do anything in that season again. So the not worth doing lessons, oh my gosh, they run deep. They don't even have to be true. It can still get stuck in there with a profound aversion. So remember me saying apply this to yourself first. That's how you can check how valid it is by notice what's not worth doing for you. And what's really worth doing, like, oh, I can't wait to do that again. So the value of the results, I'm going to add, you could say empirically, you could say obviously, right? Obviously, it's perceptible. And then there's plus appreciation. And one of the things about appreciation, there's the currency of appreciation, and there's who appreciated it. One of the things that Greg told me, and then I'm going to wrap up here, was that as a father, it was really fun and really wonderful, the things that the kids made for him on Father's Day. But that he knew they wouldn't really be able to appreciate him and what he did until maybe they were parents themselves. And that meanwhile, whose appreciation mattered the most was mine. That how much I appreciated the father that he was what had everything he did for our kids be worth doing because of how much I appreciated it. Now, it's been 6 years since he passed. I hope he's eavesdropping while our kids talk about how much they miss him and how much they tell stories about the things that he did, including how hilariously funny he was. Okay. Deserving and appreciation. Can you see? I'm hoping I'm going to put this last thing in. If you think you've already earned what you're asked a person to do and you're demanding them to do it, and by them submitting to your demand, they're now going to be out of debt to you because you're claiming you already earned them doing that. Can you see how that will never satisfy the worth it calculation? It never will. It won't be worth doing. To just Nobody wants to just get to zero. They may do it to get you to shut up, but they're going to do it to their standards, not yours, and just be like, I'm done with that and I'm done with you. So beware of deserving, but still have boundaries whether you deserve them or not. Don't care about deserving what you need. Don't care about deserving to be treated with respect. Be treated with respect and leave the people behind who won't. And pay attention to this worth it calculation. And it'd be really fun for those of you watching this if you went and played with this. And I would love it if you would post it. If you would post it on Instagram and on Facebook, wherever you're watching this, our YouTube channel, wherever you're watching it. I would love to hear what you've discovered by applying this and by exploring appreciation currencies. And I hope to see you on September 20th. All right, Tyler, I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, there was a question to clarify on the calculation. Was that a subtraction sign on under on the first one of the value? I forget what it was.
This one right here? It's an equal sign. Um, the
Equal.
value of the result is what it is. Um, and I mean, if it doesn't have a value, if it's, let's just say that the value is greater than, here's math. The value's got to be greater than 0. If there's no value to the result, like, yeah, who cares about that? It doesn't even start. It's a non-starter. It's got to be much greater. It's got to be it's got to be in the plus, or all the things over. Well, that's stupid. That's not worth anything. That will be abandoned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, could you bring it up again one more time just to clarify?
Oh, because I did it over here, but I wasn't sharing it. My
Uh,
bad. Here we go. So I changed it to this right here.
yeah, so they were asking the value of the results. After that, they were asking if that's a minus sign that's before empirically.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. That would be bad. Um,
Like put that in parentheses maybe, or is it a equal sign?
yeah, that would be a good one. I'm going to put a bracket around it. So empirically, obviously, plus appreciation. Thank you. I love clarifying questions.
That's it.
Okay, good. Would it be weird to post this on Instagram, Tyler? Is that a weird
Oh,
post? With a link to seeing what you're going to do might be good. I want everybody to have this because when people do the things for us that make us like, oh, he loves me. She loves me. Look what she did. She made me lunch. She loves me. Feels like love, looks like math.